Backpacking has a problem, and as much as I hate to admit it, I have been a part of that problem. I've been called out on the YouTube and here in the comments section for really only broadcasting ultra premium, super expensive ultralight gear. $1,100. That's where this video comes in. I set off to go look and scour Amazon for not only cheap gear, but good gear. I had a $500 budget and I was looking for gear that genuinely looked like it could be for real backpackers. That if real backpackers take this out into the wild, it's not gonna fail, it's not gonna be gimmicky crap, it's going to be something that they can actually use. So, I went shopping for $480. I came away with a backpack, a tent, a sleeping bag, a sleeping mattress, a stove, a cook pot, a headlamp, everything that I need to go backpacking aside from apparel. But this isn't just theory. I'm gonna take all this gear on a real backpacking trip. And as soon as I'm done, I'm packing this all up and I'm hitting the trail and taking her for a spin. The first piece of gear on my list is the Nevo Rhino backpack. This cost me $80, but it actually looks pretty good. Let me just get rid of this tag. We're taking it real backpacking. This is a 3.4 pound backpack. And to put that in perspective, that weight at 3.4 pounds, that is the same weight as the Radix pack, which is Mystery Ranch's new light/ultralight backpack. 3.4 pounds for an $80 backpack seems pretty good to me. The Nevo Rhino 65 liter backpack actually has like 1,700 reviews, and the vast majority of them are 5-star reviews. I think it actually might be a pretty good find. I found an $88 sleeping bag, and this is actually a 20-degree sleeping bag from the North Face. You probably know the North Face, like that is a mainstream brand. I thought, well, I gotta check out this sub $100 sleeping bag that has a 20-degree rating. Let's go Wasatch 20-degree North Face sleeping bag. This is from a company called Hike and Bike. I've had quite a few people comment and say, you know, you're talking about these tents that are like $700. You gotta try out Hike and Bike. This is definitely a heavier tent than anything that I've been carrying for a good long time. This has just under 1,000 reviews on Amazon, and again, a 4.5 star average. Obviously, the biggest downside is going to be the bulk and the weight. Whew, that is pretty heavy. It's 5.8 pounds. Modern Grizzly is selling these Tyvek ground cloths. And when I say made, I mean they took a Tyvek sheet and just put their stamp on it. I'm going to try to shed some weight. This is the contained ground cloth, and this actually is pretty bulky and pretty heavy. So I'm gonna ditch that and replace it with this Tyvek sheet, hopefully save a little bit of weight. It's going to be bulky. That's certainly where the more expensive tent is gonna have its advantages. Other gadgets that I'm really excited about, I got this stove for $12. Now, I really did think about getting the BRS stove, but this one was a little bit cheaper, and it had thousands of ratings. One of the things that I like about it is it's got that piezo igniter. So we're gonna see if this actually holds up out on the trail. I got more goodies, I got more things that I wanna show you from Amazon, but I'm going to do that out on the trail. So I'm gonna pack all this up, and I'm heading out for a 17-mile overnighter, and we're gonna go have some fun, and I hope that I don't really regret this decision. Okay, before I hit the trail, I wanna give a big shout out and a thank you to Element for sponsoring this video. They are by far my favorite electrolyte mix. Why? Well, for one, they simply taste the best, but also their concoction actually just works the best for me. It's high in salt and has no sugar. Element can help prevent muscle fatigue, cramps, poor sleep, headaches, and more. If you've ever been on the trail and you've felt like no matter how much water you drink, you simply just don't feel great, well, there's a good chance that your body is missing those key electrolytes that you need to keep going. Right now, Element is offering a free sample pack with any drink mix order. You can get yours by going to drinkelement.com/erichanson. That's DRINKLMNT.com/erichanson. This is a great way to try out 8 different flavors, see which is your favorite. My personal favorite is raspberry salt. Get yours by going there right now. It's exclusive only on the link below. All right, let's hydrate up, pack up, and hit the trail. I'm hitting a little segment of the Arizona Trail. Gonna hike about 18 miles. This pack has 28 pounds loaded up, and see what this backpack and this whole setup can really do. 18 miles on the Arizona Trail, let's go. I've made it to the first water fill up on the trail, and in northern Arizona there's just not a ton of like springs and flowing water, so most of what we have to work with is these little kind of cow ponds. This happens to be a beautiful one because I'm right below Snowbowl, which is the main ski area of Arizona. It's not looking super fresh. There's definitely a good bit of like stuff growing in here and brown water, so I'm gonna filter this with my Sawyer Squeeze, which was the cheapest water filter I could find that felt like I trusted. Sometimes even after filtering these water sources, the water doesn't taste very good. So I'm gonna be throwing in some raspberry salt element to recapture some of my electrolytes, of course, as I'm sweating it out up here, and make this water taste a lot better. There we go. That'll do. So I thought I'd check in with the pack again. It's been about 8 miles, and honestly, the pack is about the only thing I can really talk about because I haven't camped and slept in the other stuff. But honestly, the pack is impressing. It is rather comfortable, and the airflow on the back is really nice. Some of the buckles feel a little cheap. The straps are hanging down kind of long, so that's kind of a little bit awkward. But all things considered, like, it's carrying the load pretty nicely. Oh, that's a cool tree. And I'm impressed. So I'm coming up on something kind of important here. About 8 miles in, and supposedly this is where I'm gonna camp tonight, and my hope is that there's water here. So I've been using Onyx to scout ahead using their satellite service, and I've been looking at their recent satellite data, and I can see that there is some water, but it's not much. And my hope is that that water will still be there. The moment of truth will happen in about 1/10 of a mile. So that's where I intend to set up camp for the night. Hopefully there's some fresh water. Otherwise it's gonna be a dry, kind of sad camp tonight. All right, so I've made it to camp, and I'm setting up the Yosemite 2-person tent from Hike and Bike for the first time. And of all the things that I bought, this is the most expensive item. But there are some cool features about this tent that already I'm actually pretty intrigued by. It comes with this gear shed storage up top, which is kind of interesting. One thing that sticks out right off the bat is this giant door. So you've got this big kind of moon-shaped circular door that is pretty cool. And, oh man, I have already invited in a lot of flies into this tent here. Okay, so something else that I thought was like, actually, I've never seen it before, but I think it's cool. So the stakes that they include are like nice, pretty quality feeling stakes. And then they bring this push thing, a push disc that you actually use to like push. And so you save your hand so you don't have to like jam your hand up. And this thing probably weighs maybe like an ounce, maybe 2 ounces. I've never seen this before, and it actually worked pretty well as I was setting this up, just pushing these stakes in by hand. No rocks needed, didn't need to use my foot. The soil is rather soft here, but it worked like a charm. The rainfly here is definitely where a lot of this weight is. Like, this is pretty heavy polyester. When you buy cheaper gear, you really have to take a weight penalty for taking the cheaper gear. And this is certainly, this rainfly is where that's gonna come in. It's pretty heavy. This is definitely like one of the heaviest flies I've used since probably I was backpacking as like a little kid. But let's set it up and see how it looks. So I've set it up for the first time, and actually that's typically a no-no. It's like you set it up at home or in your backyard or in your living room for the first time. But I kind of wanted to have my first impressions be in the field on this video. And that is a risk. And I might regret it, but so far, I think it looks like a $100 tent. Because of the weight, because it's over 5 pounds, it's definitely got that budget, kind of basic feel. It also feels like a tent that would be completely serviceable. We'll see how she holds up. Okay, there was a couple of things that I was actually pretty nervous about. for this video concept because I love good backcountry sleep. And so this right here is a $40 air mattress. This is from Climate. This is the Static V. And this brand has been around, so people are probably relatively familiar with Climate. But the thing that I'm most nervous about for this mattress is that it is a 1.3 R value ASTM mattress, which basically just means there is very little insulating value in this mattress. So this is definitely like a 3-season/summer sleeping mattress. There's no inflation sack, and I haven't blown up one of these manually for in 3 or 4 years. So this will be an experience that'll take me back a few years. Whew. I forget how much this makes you get out of breath.
6.5 hours later.
Look at this funky mattress. So this is apparently 23 inches wide. So it's a little bit wider than your standard, which is normally 20, which I like. But it feels thin like that. I'm probably gonna be feeling the ground pretty good. I'm nervous about this one. Okay, I put this in a different stuff sack because it didn't come with a stuff sack. This is the North Face Wasatch 20-degree sleeping bag. And again, where you're gonna save money is the fact that it's synthetic insulation, and that is going to be bulkier. It will keep you just as warm as a 20-degree rated down sleeping bag. There's just more material, more weight, more bulk to cram and fit into your backpack, which space is obviously at a premium, but you know, it looks like a pretty good basic sleeping bag. We'll just see if I'm comfortable enough tonight, because I'm a little nervous. Not gonna lie. I like my sleep, and this, I might not sleep well. There are so many bugs. Luckily, most of them are in between the rainfly and this mesh, but I'm gonna need to close up because there's a lot of bugs. Well, I'm really glad that the satellite imagery was right. Pretty much spot on. There is some water here. This is a lake in Arizona. There's about 40 gallons of water in there. That'll make camping, getting water for cooking a lot easier, as well as when I set off tomorrow morning. One of the things you probably never heard before, AO2, kind of like a pocket rocket style stove or the BRS stove. So I've got a little 1.5 ounce stove that cost $12 that I'm rather excited about. And then, you know, this is the Toke 750 milliliter cook pot. So this is super basic. This has been around. Loads of backpackers and thru hikers use this because it's dead simple, it's very lightweight, and it's inexpensive. I think I picked this up for about $30. Compare that to my previous titanium mug, which is a little bit fancier, of course, but it was $100. So I won't talk too much about that one because a lot of you have seen that before and it's not super crazy, but this is, for $12, I'm actually pretty excited about this little stove. It's definitely bigger and bulkier than the BRS stove. And I debated buying the BRS stove, but everybody has seen that. And it is a great stove. I've actually been using a version of it for the last year plus. And for like $20, it's an incredible stove. And this one is bigger and definitely bulkier than the BRS, but it's got the piezo lighter. So this little click lighter that supposedly will save me from having to theoretically have or use a lighter. And it actually feels pretty like solid. Here's the piezo. You can actually fold out for a little extra coverage and support. That right there. So we're gonna make some dinner and hopefully this works because literally haven't used it. Ho ho, ho ho, that's a great sign. Well, it turns on, it ignites. That I'm excited about. All right, let's make some dinner. Stove worked great. Cook pot is, you know, standard cook pot. There's not a whole lot that can go wrong with a titanium pot. So I'm impressed with that purchase. Mostly I'm impressed with the prices that they work at For, the stove being $12, that seems pretty good, actually. I'll show you some more gear as the night goes on, and certainly tomorrow after I have used everything. Now I'm gonna eat dinner and enjoy the view. Okay, I know it's getting dark here, but it's the perfect time to talk about my headlamp while there's still at least a little bit of ambient light. So I picked up the Nightcore NU25 Ultralight, or UL headlamp. This is a 400 lumen headlamp that I bought for $36. Now, this is a pretty impressive headlamp. If you've been around the ultralight backpacking community, this is one that definitely shows up. One of the things that I really like about it is that it has this very minimal headlamp cord. So that means you're not wasting weight and bulk with like just a strap. And then you've got multiple different brightnesses, 3 different brightnesses: spotlight mode, flood mode, and red light mode. And if you're new or unfamiliar with backpacking and camping, red light mode is super helpful for 2 things. I can look directly at somebody else and it won't blind them because red light is much softer on the eyes than white light. And 2, bugs are not attracted to red light. So you can use these in buggy environments without just having mosquitoes and bugs and flies just swarming to your face. And 3, kind of back to the number 1 point, it preserves your night vision. So if you're doing things, if you're cooking and you've got your red light on, you can actually then still look up and you can see the stars. And it's really nice. So this is a pretty robust headlamp. Sometimes the cheaper headlamps don't have this many modes, this many functions or capabilities. And at 400 lumens, that's a pretty bright headlamp. That's pretty bright. You don't need it that bright. Another thing that I like about the Nightcore is that it just is a USB-C rechargeable headlamp. When you get really cheap headlamps, often they are AAA powered. So I like that this cheap headlamp is rechargeable. There are so many flies. I'm gonna play a little game, capture the flies. It's tricky. I think I've captured about 60% of the flies. I've captured as many flies as I felt like I could stomach. I wasn't eating them. That's a bad metaphor. But look at this. I'm using this like overhead feature where I can just store my headlamp and it provides a nice little softer glow for the inner part of the tent. I think this is a pretty cool tent. I'm actually really happy with a lot of the gear. And I am fairly surprised. I thought that there was going to be something that was just like, oh, this was a total failure. So far, no. We'll see if I make it through the night with the sleeping bag and sleeping mat. I'll check in with you in the morning. All right. Good night. That was suboptimal. Honestly, kind of impressed. Actually, the mattress was more impressive than I expected. It was definitely better. I need to wake up a little bit more before I give my thoughts. Now, this is a mummy bag, and it's going to be narrow, but this is really narrow. I didn't feel the cold of the ground. Granted, it's not that cold out. Definitely not super comfortable. It's hard. There's not a lot of give. And I did actually deflate this some so it had a little bit more give. It's much more comfortable than an accordion style foam mattress, but much less comfortable than certainly more expensive air mattresses. Let's go outside, make some breakfast, make some coffee, start the day. So I just thought I'd point out that this camp cup, it's from a company called Yuko, and I've had it for a little bit, but I did get it on Amazon, and it's like, I think it's $8. Basically the best lightweight collapsible camp mug out there. It's my favorite. All right, now that I've had my coffee, it is the proper time to bring up one more item that I bought. This is the Bogler trowel. This is a high-strength aluminum trowel that weighs only half an ounce. I first saw this on Justin Outdoors YouTube channel. It's time to see if this thing can dig a cat hole. All right, I've dug a lot of cat holes in my day, and this thing works. I like this scoop action with these serrated blades. So that's dirt, by the way. Don't you fret. Most cat holes need to be 7 inches deep, 6 to 8 inches deep, which is This is a 7-inch long trowel. So as you start getting down there, your hand will hit the sides of the hole. For $17, I think this is a really nice option. So thanks, Bogler. Definitely also, just a quick note, this is definitely a small company. The owner of this company, handwritten note thanking me for the purchase. So I thought that was a nice touch. Well, let's talk about the Yosemite 2-person tent from Hike and Bike. I think where this would excel for people out there is car camping with occasional backpacking. It's light enough that you can certainly still carry it as a backpacking tent. One thing I did notice is we got a fair bit of wind last night, and the rainfly did a bit of flapping. It's this polyester fabric, and it's really hard to get that like super tight tension just with like the 4 corner stakes and then the vestibule staked out. So if you're using it in some inclement weather, definitely like guy out all the lines. And if you don't know what that is, it's using these little tie points and string that you like reinforce the structure of your tent with. One thing I liked about the tent though is how easy it is to just connect and disconnect the rainfly just with this buckle. And that's pretty nice. Hummingbird just tried to dive on me. And setting this up is definitely, it's an easy tent to set up. These big doors are my favorite part. I love that. This little storage spot up top was actually pretty nice. You've also got some added little storage pockets in the sides and just some little things that are helpful for interior organization and making your tent feel like a nice livable home. All right, let's talk about the sleep setup. I think I was expecting the mattress to be the worst part of it, and it was actually decent. If most people don't like spending a lot of money on sleeping mats because they've spent a lot of money on the tent, the backpack, all the other stuff, and they're just like, just give me the foam mattress. I think that's a big mistake. It is one of the leading causes of bad sleep and people not enjoying backpacking. And if you get a good mattress, it'll go a long way to making sure that you are having a good time. So this is a $40 mattress. So this is essentially the same price as those accordion foam mattresses. This is much better. Now, I would say that this is going to be only for summer, because if it's colder out, that cold is really going to come through the ground and you're going to not be having much fun. Now, this would be the one spot where I would say if you can spring for more money, an item, like spending $150, which is a big step up from $40, you can get a really nice mattress. And that's one of the best upgrades you can make for a backpacker. The sleeping bag was okay. And for $88, of course, it's only going to be okay. I was plenty warm in the bag. This is the least roomy sleeping bag I've ever really used. But at the price, it's warm. It compresses down moderately well. Pretty much all of the gear that I've used throughout this trip, I'm impressed with how serviceably good it is. All right, so one of the actual downsides of a mattress like this is the ability or the lack of ability of letting the air out quickly. It's actually kind of a big pain in the butt when you've got this little tiny valve. Especially with these V chambers, the air almost wants to go down to the foot. And so when you roll it up, the air gets stuck. It's having a hard time escaping. Definitely got to give them a little ding for that. Got some miles to go before finishing up today. So it's time to hit the trail and make some miles. This is one of the most glorious stretches of trail in the whole state. Aspen groves, ponderosa pine, views of a 12,600 foot mountain. Pretty special out here. All right, I completed my little segment. This is just about 18, 19 miles of a roughly 800 mile long trail. The Arizona Trail runs through my town, and I haven't done this segment, so it was a great excuse to come out here. And now I'm gonna head back to my house and I'm gonna do a full gear breakdown and how it performed, what I recommend, what I think could be maybe left out of your purchasing considerations. All right, cut Let's go home. Okay, let's do a quick recap here. So, this is the Nevo Rhino 65-liter backpack. And overall, I think this is the piece of gear that I'm the most impressed with. It felt rather comfortable, surprisingly comfortable actually. And there's a lot of like interesting design elements in this pack. The way that you can pack it, the way that you can access your gear, it's pretty thoughtful. The one thing that I think is not very well done is how far out this arches. This is a big gap, and this meant that there was good airflow, but the balance was a little bit off. And I think that that could have been done a little bit better, not needing that quite that aggressive arch there. The Nevo Rhino is a $80 backpack, and as of right now, there are 1,699 ratings on this pack, and it has a 4.5-star average. I think that this definitely punches above its weight class. For an $80 pack, it feels more like something that would cost $160, $180. And this pack would be a good, suitable pack purchase for somebody who's looking to get into backpacking, or maybe they're only really sure that they're going to be doing a handful of trips a year. I think where it's going to fall apart a little bit is literally just on the durability. I think these buckles are pretty frail feeling. They don't feel like they're very quality buckles, and I bet over time this pack will show a lot of wear and tear and probably have some failures on buckles and zippers and things like that. For people who are not super aggressive, pretty cool backpack. Next, let's talk about the Yosemite 2-person tent from Hike and Bike. There's just under 1,000 ratings on this, and it has a 4.4-star average. It says online that it's for thru hiking, car camping, and backpacking. And if I were thru hiking, there's no way I would take this. This just is not light enough at all. But for car camping and occasional backpacking, I think it is a good tent. At $120, that's a pretty good price, but it is 5.5 pounds. It weighs a lot more than other tents that you can get for just like a little bit more, like $150 to $160. And for me, that's just too big of a weight penalty for the savings, so I would probably recommend people go a little bit elsewhere with what tent they get. But it was still cool design. I liked the doors. I liked the spaciousness of it. And depending on what you want to do, could be a nice tent for you. All right, this is the Wasatch 20-degree sleeping bag from the North Face. And honestly, this, of all the things, I think this one was the most disappointing. It's not that it was necessarily bad. It's about what I expected for an $88 sleeping bag. It feels like anything, generally speaking, that you would get at the Sportsman's Warehouse. It was probably in the low 40s last night, and I was perfectly warm, so it did its job for keeping me warm. The downside were things like the zippers not being great, kind of catching on the material, the lack of space inside the bag. It is a mummy bag, but it really felt very constricted and confined. And then the hood I thought was too small. So it was just hard to fit my head in the hood as the temperatures did drop overnight. It has not as many ratings as I would have expected, but it has 172 ratings and a 4.4-star average. I would not necessarily recommend this. It was fine. But of all the things that I think people should save money on, sleep is not one of them. And there are much better sleeping bags out there for just a little bit more money. This was kind of my big loser of the whole trip. It wasn't terrible. I slept okay, but I wouldn't necessarily recommend it. This is the thing that I was expecting to be, out of everything, the worst, and the thing that I hated the most. This is the Climate Static V, or maybe Static 5. It is a 1.3 R value sleeping mattress. This cost me $39. It has over 800 ratings and a 4.4-star average. It is a very small mattress, and you can compare it with some of the best, most ultralight mattresses on the market. This is an extremely expensive, very, very nice mattress, and this is actually smaller than it. This has almost no insulation to it. This at 1.3, if on the R scale, and if you're not familiar with what these terms mean, that is measuring the amount of insulation. If it's cold, the cold from the ground is going to come up and get into your sleeping bag and get into you, make you feel the cold, because there's almost no insulation there. So this is really a good sleeping mattress only for like warm temperatures, like summertime sleeping. And the other downside of this mattress is comfort. I thought it was a very firm mattress, very unforgiving. It was much more comfortable than like a foam accordion mattress, which is also around $25 or so. So definitely a premium over that. Still a far cry from a comfortable air mattress. having used some of the best ones on the market. If you're going to spend money anywhere, it's on a mattress and a sleeping bag, in my opinion. Get those two dialed in, and almost anything else becomes less relevant. This little bit of wrapping paper, this is the Tyvek sheet that I got, and it says it's from Modern Grizzly, but really it's just from DuPont, as they make this product Tyvek, and they put their stamp on it. But got to give them credit for being ingenious, because this is a thing that a lot of backpackers are looking for, and I've honestly been looking for it for a long time. Doing my deep dive in Amazon, I was like, yup, putting that in the cart. This footprint is $19. It has 78 ratings, so not very many, and a 4.5 star average. This is a very simple thing. It's a moisture barrier. It's good for putting underneath your tent or underneath your sleeping mat, or just sitting on it or putting gear on it. It'll also prolong the life of a tent and anything else, and it's much lighter and, in my opinion, probably more durable and more useful than a footprint that most tents will come with. So I was quick to ditch the other one that weighed 3-4 times as much and was happy to get this. So for $19, I thought that was pretty cool. All right, let's dive into the little food and cook pot kit. By the way, I picked this little food bag up from my buddy Devin, Backcountry Exposure. He makes them, and I really like them. But this is not about him. Sorry, Devin. Let's talk about this stove. This is the AO2 stove. This is the cheapest, one of the cheapest things that I bought in the whole thing. This is a $12.99, so $13 stove. This stove has a staggering 5,800 ratings with a 4.5 star average. So these are getting sold a lot, and a lot of people are mostly liking them. And honestly, I liked it. Perfectly functional. I love this piezo click lighter. Just being able to do that is so easy. And for $13, I don't know why you'd ever spend $200 or more than $100 on a stove ever again. So this was one of my favorite little finds. $13, pretty dang good stove. The Toke 750 milliliter pot is a $26 pot. This pot has 2,639 ratings with a 4.9 star average. So almost everybody is thrilled with this pot. Comparing this to my $100 cook pot, titanium cook pot, there's no reason why I could really honestly recommend a $100 cook pot to somebody when a $26 one is literally just as functional, lighter, and a lot less money. 2,600 people are not wrong. This is a 5-star piece of gear in my books, and I'm really glad I finally own one. I really like that these nest perfectly together, so that's super handy. Now, I picked up the Sawyer Squeeze water filter for $26. And this is one of the most common water filters in the world. Has a staggering 24,000 reviews. Now the downside to this water filter is this bag. This is not the best water bag, and this can be replaced. Most people who are really backpacking get the Canuck or Canuck, I'm not really sure how you pronounce it, water bag that fits perfectly with this thing. If you take care of these Sawyer Squeezes, they are almost indestructible and last forever, as long as you consistently clean and back flush and just take general good care. So at 25 bucks, pretty dang good water filter. Another piece of gear that I'm really happy with is the Nightcore NU25UL headlamp. This is a 400 lumen headlamp that costs $37. This has 610 ratings and a 4.8 star average. I think this is an absolute win. This is a great deal. The only thing I would say is some of this plastic feels potentially a little cheap, and I wonder how durable it will be over time. But for its actual functionality, its comfort when you wear it, how much it weighs or doesn't weigh, because it's very light, at $37, pretty dang good. Let's talk some crap. This is the Bogler Camp Trowel, and this is an $18 trowel. And I honestly think it was pretty good. I had to dig a cat hole this morning. This wasted no time in digging me an adequate hole. At 692 ratings and a 4.9 average, people are not talking crap about this. Would I really trade my $25 titanium trowel for this? Probably I'll stick with my titanium trowel, but if you're looking for a good one, this is a good one, and I wouldn't wish the plastic trowels upon anyone. My worst enemies, they will not dig a cat hole. They're just not good at getting through, the loosest of stool. I mean, the loosest of soil. This is one that I will recommend happily, although the Vargo Dig at 25 bucks is kind of been my go-to for years. And my last gear piece is this Yuko Camp Cup. This is a $9 cup, and I have been using this actually for a long time. I didn't buy it on this round because I've already owned it, but I thought I'd tell you about it because I like it so much and I'm including it in my $500 budget. This has almost 1,200 ratings and a 4.6 average, and I have yet to come across a better value for a camp cup. There are other cups that I technically prefer, but for $9, this is hard to beat. The grand total for everything here was $474, which proves to me that yes, you can realistically go backpacking, be comfortable, and enjoy it on a budget. I was a little bit scared filming this video thinking that I was gonna come away being like, nope, all this gear was total trash. You have to just spend a lot of money. And my honest takeaway was there is a lot of serviceable gear out there that comes in at a budget price. And that is great news for everybody who wants to go backpacking but isn't necessarily committed to going the true ultralight or being in the thru hiker mentality and just want to be more casual about it and don't want to spend a ton of money. So I'd love to hear from you what piece of gear stands out the most for you, and if you have any gear recommendations that you found at a budget on a place like Amazon or elsewhere, I would love to hear from you because I want to do a few more of these videos in the series that help people get out, especially at a decent price. All right, thanks so much for watching. I'm Eric Hansen. I hope you enjoyed this one. We'll see you later.